This is the story about how a young kid from Virginia grew up to pilot flying bricks with the US Navy, who went on to join the G.I. Joe team running a code name from an ancient torture method, and then, as an admiral, took part in some of the G.I. Joe team's biggest and most famous operations. This is the story of Admiral Keel-Haul. Let's talk about him. First, thanks for watching JLS Comics. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. I do upload videos just like this every single week. Let's jump into our story. Everett Colby was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. When he was old enough, Everett was accepted to and graduated from Annapolis and then Navy Flight School, where he was then deployed on the USS Intrepid as a pilot flying double ugly F-4 Phantoms with the Navy's 7th Fleet. Flying the Rhino, Colby became a legend, becoming the first carrier captain to also be a fighter pilot. Colby perfected the art of carrier-based takeoffs and landings, and as his file card notes, he could set an F-4 down on a carrier deck at night with half his instruments out and walk away whistling. You know what it's like to land a carrier at night? Try jumping on a moving skateboard while blindfolded. Over multiple tours, Everett earned the Navy Cross, Distinguished Flying Cross, and the Air Medal. After this, he went to Naval War College and Armed Forces Staff College, after which he was picked to join the G.I. Joe team. As his file card notes, Everett is a military historian, a nationally rated chess player, and can brew up the best batch of coffee you've ever had. He is noted, though, as being one of the world's worst clarinet players. Knowing military history and strategy and being able to think many moves ahead as you do with chess makes Admiral Colby the last guy you'd want to play real-world battleship with. As part of G.I. Joe, Admiral Colby was assigned to CVN-99, the Joe's designated Nimitz-class aircraft carrier USS Flagg, named after Brigadier General Lawrence Flagg. It makes Admiral Keel-Haul vital to G.I. Joe's operations, as the USS Flagg is as important as the pit itself, and as an admiral outranking even Hawk before he was a general. The Flagg allows the Joe team force projection at a mobile base in any theater of the world. It gives them strength and support for maritime operations and puts a massive force right on the doorstep of any continent and any country's shores in the world. And with the G.I. Joe team, 3-star Vice Admiral Colby took on the name Keel-Haul. But what's in a name? What does that mean? Well, there's a couple parts to this. First, a keel is one of the most important components of a ship's construction. It's a primary support beam that runs longitudinally aft all the way forward from stern to bow. It runs from the center line at the bottommost part of the ship's hull, and because of that, it's a vital part of a ship. In fact, it's usually the first thing laid in dry dock and is marked with a ceremony second only in importance to the christening and launching of the ship at completion. So what is a keel haul? Well, hundreds of years ago, keel hauling was actually a punishment. It was used as far back as 700 BC, as noted by the Greeks' Lex Rhodia, and more recently by the Dutch Navy in the 16th and 17th centuries. The idea was to drop a sailor off one side of the ship, either port or starboard, and then drag them under the ship, scraping along the barnacle-filled keel, and then hoisting the offender up on the other side of the ship. It wasn't just the scraping along the bottom of the ship, but also about the length of time underwater, and of course the lack of oxygen, that made it such a cruel and unusual punishment, which luckily Admiral Keel-Haul does not employ. Keel-Haul first appeared on Marvel Comics in Larry Hama's A Real American Hero comic book series with issue 40. The USS Flagg, however, made its debut a bit earlier, at the end of issue 36. Before the USS Flagg, the G.I. Joe team still needed to conduct water-based missions and to position troops off the coast of any water-adjacent nation. And to do that, the team employed a freighter they dubbed the USS Jane. And the USS Jane was helmed by Cutter, who also piloted the Whale, which could launch from the Jane. And the USS Jane was a fine ship, but she was hit bad and sunk in the South Atlantic. Cutter had sent out an SOS, and the vessel, which recovered Cutter's snow job torpedo, deep six dock, and tripwire, was the newly christened USS Flagg. In issue 40, as Cobra attacked the Joe's air-sea base in the Gulf of Mexico and they discovered a mysterious sonar weapon killing all the fish in the region, the USS Flagg was called up again for a bomb strike. Ace's Sky Striker was loaded with a tactical nuke on the flight deck of the aircraft carrier, but was quickly changed out for conventional weapons at the last moment. And that is how we meet Admiral Keel-Haul, running out of the island frantically as the message from Cutter at the air-sea base came in for conventional bomb loads only. The next time we see Keel-Haul is in issue 73 during the build-up to Civil War on Cobra Island. The USS Flagg was 100 miles to the east of Cobra Island in the Gulf of Mexico as General Hawk in Tomahawk 1 sat down on the flight deck and asked Admiral Keel-Haul permission to board his ship. The USS Flag would serve as the main staging area for the Cobra Island assault, and the operations team for the entire mission would remain in the island, which comprised of Hawk, although he'd exercise his command to go in, along with Flint, Lady J, and Mainframe. Once General Hollingsworth landed on the carrier with Dr. Mindbender, Hollingsworth took over command of the HHC, and Keel-Haul, Cutter, and Shipwreck were assigned as the Sea Transport and Support Team, although during the story, Cutter and Shipwreck were both seen with the Engineer Team at the end of the runway, bombing asp emplacements with satchel charges, so the C-130s could land. The first part of the mission would be to get Lieutenant Falcon's recon team inserted onto Cobra Island so they could get some human intelligence. General Hollingsworth had directed General Hawk to do this to recover a stolen black box, but it was Admiral Keel-Haul who drafted up the preliminary insertion plans. He said they couldn't do a flyby, so he was able to get high-res satellite photographs from a satellite, probably a keyhole satellite like a KH-11, that the DIA had tasked with reconning Cobra Island. Keel-Haul is the one who determined that the best plan for insertion for Falcon's team would be with a Cobra Mamba that the Joes had stolen, and as the mission continued to unfold, the USS Flag remained parked 30 miles east of Cobra Island. Later in the middle of the battle, the Joes, who had joined with Serpentor's forces, were in bad shape as they lost the airfield and forced to retreat north on the island. Breaker established a comlink with the Flag, and so Hawk was able to radio Keel-Haul to report this unfortunate news. As soon as he heard this, Keel-Haul immediately ordered Flint to greenlight the LCT, the landing craft tank, to drop off reinforcements in the form of additional troops and armored cavalry. So the LCT hit the shores of Cobra Island and offloaded a MBT, a Slugger, Rolling Thunder, Bridge Layer, and Havoc. After the friendly forces' strategic withdrawal, Keel-Haul is seen in pride flight on the island of the USS Flag when they spot Destro's yacht dead in the water. LJ asks what he was doing, and Keel-Haul says could be he just wants to catch some Caribbean sun. And indeed, as the scene cuts to his yacht, he and the Baroness are catching some rays, although Destro left his mask on, which will make for a weird tan line. Admiral Keel-Haul was seen next in issue 115 as Ace and Dogfight had to crash land a Sky Striker on the deck of the USS Flag at night with only the ball and the light of their inflamed engines to guide them. Keel-Haul was with Hawk and LJ watching Ace try to land. Ace's angle of descent was very steep, and so Keel-Haul yelled, "Crash crew on deck!" And then he said to Hawk, "Your hotshot fighter jock is about to plow a furrow into my flight deck." But Hawk had a good reply. He told him, "Even though I command the whole team, when I'm on this ship, you are the one in command. And so that makes that hotshot fighter jock all yours." They then sent up What's-His-Name and Dogfight in the Phantom X-19 stealth fighter to go after whatever took out Ace's Sky Striker. Admiral Keel-Haul asked Hawk if he'd do his job, and so Hawk told him he's a pro, he'll get it done. And indeed, they did. Their imagery intelligence recon mission got a photograph of a Cobra Firebat launching from an illegal terradrome that Cobra had installed in Benzine, which is a clear violation of their international agreements. Much later, Admiral Keel-Haul met Roadblock, LJ, and Flint as they took an elevator to the flight deck on the Flag to load into a Tomahawk for their Darklon extraction mission. And on the way back from the mission, the Tomahawk was hit, on fire, and quickly losing hydraulics. Worse, both Darklon and Lady J were hit and bleeding out. Admiral Keel-Haul ordered Shipwreck to bring the Flag around to heading 120 to meet the Tomahawk's flight path and to take a little distance off their trip because every second counted. Keel-Haul was looking for them with his big, what looked like 15 by 70 binoculars, and they're no big eyes, but should be able to see really well with them, yet he was unable to spot the inbound Tomahawk. So Cutter informed him that they were still 5 nautical miles out. The Admiral then made a very rare land appearance. After Snake Eyes died, he was at the ceremony, where he showed up on top of a whale hovercraft, manning the rails and rendering a hand salute next to Deep Six and Shipwreck during the parade. Keel-Haul then showed up still at the pit in issue 270. After the team was stood down and prevented from rescuing Sean Collins from Springfield, the entire team said that they wanted to go on leave, which really meant that they were going on the mission anyway, unsanctioned and unofficial as it was. Well, Keel-Haul was right in line with the rest of them. Admiral Keel-Haul also participated in a couple of special missions. In Special Mission 19, the USS Flag was in the middle of the Gulf of Thailand, and at twilight, Keel-Haul handed Wild Bill his mission orders with the directive to read them in flight and destroy them right after he read them. They had to fly up the Mekong River through hostile territory, engage the October Guard, and then rescue a team that they had in country. He was also with Duke when the team got their orders for the next mission, a mission that would require, on DoD orders, to take a new guy named Scoop along with them for documentation purposes. And then, Keel-Haul was in the final issue of Special Missions, issue 28, as the team was conducting exercises to see how vulnerable their new stealthy secret base in Punta del Mocosa would be to detection. It also proved as a window of opportunity mission to be a test of the G.I. Joe space shuttle. the USS Defiant. And so for this aspect of the mission, Admiral Keel-Haul and the USS Flag were on standby in stormy seas, quote, somewhere in the Caribbean. Cobra Commander, though, working with Darklon, was aware of the mission and launched a squadron of Python Conquest to attack. And they wanted to attack the stealth base, but knew that the Flag would send up air cover if they attacked. So the Pythons were supposed to keep the carrier busy while a Condor bombed the base. Wild Weasel and the Strato Vipers in the Conquest unleash a salvo of missiles at the USS Flag, whose defenses kicked in, and the R2-D2-looking Phalanx close-in weapon system called Sea-Wiz threw up a thick wall of 30mm depleted uranium rounds at the rate of 4,500 rounds per minute. And before you jump on me in the comments, the book says 30, though in the real world, the Phalanx uses the M61 Vulcan that fires 20mm rounds. Goalkeeper uses the GAU-8 and 30mm rounds. On the Flag, Sea-Wiz let an anti-ship missile through, and it struck the USS Flag amidships, knocking out the high-pressure steam lines, which meant that the steam catapults wouldn't be able to launch any fighters. However, they were able to get Dogfight and his prop-driven Mud Fighter into the air. He was much slower than Wild Weasel in the Conquest, but Dogfight was able to use his slower speed and the lifting body design of the Mud Fighter to cut tighter turns. So at the end of the issue, Ace had landed the space shuttle on the deck of the USS Flag, and Admiral Keel-Haul was front and center as the entire team waved hello to readers and thanked us all for reading. During Devil's Due and Image Comics non-canon Volume 2 of G.I. Joe, after Serpentor and the Coil attacked the planet with EMP bombs, Admiral Keel-Haul had the USS Flag off the former Cobra Island, now Serpentor's stronghold, while a team led by Mercer hit the EM weapons housing on the island. The Admiral was also seen briefly in G.I. Joe's Silent Option 3, flanked by Mainframe and Psych-Out as he greeted Bomb Strike, Don Moreno, Helix, Alpine, and Torpedo. After Mainframe decrypted some files that the team had recovered, Keel-Haul ordered Ace to fly Bomb Strike, Dawn, and Helix to Newark in an EA-6B Prowler to intercept a Darklonia cargo plane that they discovered had kids in containers on board. On the animated side, the USS Flag aircraft carrier first appeared in the second part of Sunbow's Pyramid of Darkness multi-part event in 1985, but instead of Admiral Keel-Haul, it was Admiral Ledger at the helm. So Keel-Haul was not in any of the cartoons, and there's no official explanation for this, so I actually wrote into Larry Hama via the letters page to inquire. So stay tuned to future comic book issues of ARAH to see if my letters printed and the questions finally answered. The television commercial for the USS Flag lacked any animation. Some characters who don't show up in the show still managed to get a little animated sequence in their associated commercials, but not in Keel-Haul's case. Speaking of action figures, Admiral Keel-Haul's first action figure debuted in 1985, boxed with the USS Flag aircraft carrier. According to Hasbro figure designer Ron Rudat, Keel-Haul's mold was inspired by Clark Gable. At first, Ron submitted Stephen Hasselfeld for Keel-Haul. If that end sounds familiar to you, good. Hasselfeld was the CEO of Hasbro at the time, until his passing in 1989. When Hasbro rejected the Hasselfeld design, Ron went for a quote-unquote man's man, and Clark Gable became the inspiration for Admiral Keel-Haul. Not all these figures sold, and so leftover stock was sold in the special driver set, which means he was part of some special mail-away offers like North Atlantic, Operation Deep Six, Incredible Shrieking Joes, G.I. Joe Bugle, and Rumble in the Jungle. Others were sold at pizza shops like Chuck E. Cheese, along with arcades and carnivals around the U.S. as prizes for games like Skee-Ball. He was just stuck in a plastic bag, just the figure, no accessories, and the backing was a Terror on the Tundra insert from Hasbro Promotions. And he was in the promotion fold-out card where he's photographed in a whale skimming the frigid waters near a Cobra Seashore launch site, and we're there to, quote, wreak chaos on Serpentor's attack plans, end quote. In 1993, Keel-Haul then joined Battle Corps along with his blue weaponry and an orange missile launcher. And many years later, it was 2014, Admiral Keel-Haul got a third figure by way of the G.I. Joe Collectors Club. For now, that's a wrap on this one, my friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and you'll be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this each and every week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.